Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I took a day off for the first time yesterday since moving to Seattle and starting this job, so feeling creative and just wanting to get back in the swing of things. I didn't want to move to a new city and like go off the grid, so I am slowly climbing my way back. So one of the things that I wanted to definitely talk about is my apartment hunting experience here in Seattle. Everyone's experience is gonna be different, so I figured, you know what, might as well share mine, and I don't know if any of it will be helpful, but figured I would talk about it because that's what I like to do here. Let's talk about my apartment hunting experience. So I moved here sort of at the last minute. I knew that I wasn't happy in LA. I knew that I definitely wanted to leave LA. I didn't think that I was gonna move to Seattle. I thought I would maybe move back here in my 30s, a place that I would kind of like end up, if you will. And when I say move back, I am from Washington State, but I actually never lived in Seattle. I went to school here and commuted a very long way and spent many nights in the city, but in terms of like having my own place and actually experiencing the neighborhoods, not so much, other than, again, going to school. So that is what I mean by coming back. And I do really like the vibe here, so I thought maybe one day I'll just go back there. And that one day came much sooner than I imagined it would, so here we are. I now live in Seattle, which is so crazy. I'm really, really happy. I am going to share as much as I'm comfortable sharing, and I will eventually be doing an apartment tour. Things are not really put together yet, so I'm waiting. More than happy to talk about my experience and include some clips of my time searching Seattle. You know, I imagined that my video was gonna be very different, that it was really just gonna be a montage of me looking at places. But I guess to kick off this story time, the funny thing is I actually only looked at 2. Obviously I didn't have a lot of time, and I had done some research prior to coming back to Seattle, prior to looking at places, and I had a pretty good idea of where I wanted to be. I had a budget already in mind based off of what this job is paying me. I'm not gonna share what I pay for rent, but what I will say is that my budget was $1,800 a month. So the final step before I actually make appointments though is I read the Yelp reviews. After Yelp reviews, I had 5 left out of 35 buildings. And out of the 5 buildings, I only saw 2 of them. So the first building was beautiful and great area, very walkable. It was pretty much like the moment I walked in, I was like, this is so my vibe. Just the aesthetics. But they were kind of rushing us, and they had another tour. They didn't show us any amenities. All of theirs are shut, but it would have been nice to like see it. And I also felt like each unit was pretty much cookie cutter. It was the exact same. And then he just continued to put a lot of pressure on me to put an application in, and just kept saying like, this price won't last. It was actually the one building from the very beginning that I was so excited about because it just felt so much like a hotel. It's one of the few buildings in Seattle that actually had, I don't know if it has a pool, but it had a jacuzzi. But when I asked about the amenities, he like wouldn't even bother to show them. He's like, well, they're closed. And I was like, okay. I don't know. I think that customer service like really does get you far. So I wasn't impressed. And I think that that one was going for $1,800 on a concession and was regularly priced at like $2,100, maybe $2,000. So that was the other thing I thought, okay, after the lease is up, will I be able to afford that unit anymore? Because it's now going over my budget. So that was also on my mind, and that is kind of what went into the thought process of that building. It was in South Lake Union. I guess I don't really mind saying that because I don't live in South Lake Union, and I didn't end up choosing that building. So I moved on, and the second place that we looked at, it was also in South Lake Union. I was excited about it. We ended up being done so quickly with our first appointment that my brother and I just walked up to the next building. First one was great. Second one I canceled because I didn't like the area once we walked by it, and now we are off to the third one to see if they will see us early, which is where I ended up moving, which is very exciting. And it was an area that I didn't originally have on my list. So I kind of was like, shoot, do I still want to go to this building? Because one, they did not have a lot of Yelp reviews. So that made me nervous, and they were all like good reviews, but I was like, it wasn't in the area like that I necessarily wanted. If you can't tell, I did want to be in South Lake Union. One of my best friends lives in South Lake Union, and it's just an area I was familiar with because there are a couple of restaurants out there that I'm obsessed with. So yeah, I was really hoping to be in that area. Didn't work out, which is fine. So the area that I ended up moving to, it was not exactly what I wanted, but I also wasn't really familiar with the pocket that I'm in. So I was like, oh, I've never really like heard of it before. I've never really experienced it before. So it was one of those things where I was like, I'm not opposed to it because I just don't know enough about it. We walked in, we talked to concierge. They were like, let me go get the leasing agent, because we had an appointment. We were just pretty early for it. And they were like more than happy to take us early, made us feel really welcome. She gave us full privacy, which is why I was able to like actually film the inside of the units, because she was like, I'll wait outside, which I loved. I was really hoping that there were gonna be self-guided tours because some of the buildings out here advertise it, and it just like wasn't the case for the two that I went to. They like had somebody go with you. I guess if I had like specifically asked, they probably would have done it, but I kind of thought it was just like a given, like, you know, it's COVID, like here's a self-guided tour, so whatever. That didn't end up happening, but this person ended up being like so great and did let us like be in the units by ourselves. And she showed us so many units within my budget, and they were all a little different. And she showed us the amenities, which was very sweet, even showed us the gym. And the reason why I say that is because the gym was closed and she still showed us the gym. So that's when I started to really think about my first tour and how I didn't really feel super taken care of, because regardless of if the amenities are closed, one day they're gonna open back up again. So like, why not show us? Plus, I may have been sold on the amenities, so I don't know. She showed us like 8 units altogether that day, and I narrowed it down to 3. And then she gave me the floor plans and the price points and the concessions on each one. So at this building, I got 2 months for free on a 14-month lease. So it's pretty much just like what it would have, yeah. It all evens out in the end, guys. But what's cool here is that the concession was like used at my discretion versus, I mean, every building handles it a little bit differently. So they just give you the concession up front and you can do with it what you want. So what I do with mine is I just disperse it a little bit every single month so that I have a rate that is actually under my budget, which is really cool. Yeah, I feel really good about that, and it ended up working out for my budget. They were so quick and sweet, and yeah, I just couldn't have been happier with the move-in process, and I'm really grateful. I'm really happy with where I live. I could see myself like staying in the area long term. What I'm paying now is like what I paid in LA to have roommates, essentially. So maybe that's why it feels so cheap to someone who just moved from a more expensive city. Like, to live alone, I was paying basically $2 grand for a really nice building, but a not very nice area. And here I feel like I live in a nice area and I have a nice building, and I pay pretty much what I paid to live with roommates in nice buildings but not nice areas. So there is definitely a compromise, especially with a major city like LA. But yeah, that is sort of the scope on my journey out here. I would have loved to have more options, but sometimes, I mean, when you are in such a time crunch, some people don't even have time to come out here and look at a building first. So I feel really grateful that I looked first and had the opportunity to look at the areas that I was like potentially gonna live in. So as I keep saying, I'm really happy with my choice. And yeah, budget-wise, building-wise, area-wise, everyone that works here is really lovely, and I'm excited to show you guys my apartment tour very soon. But I hope that that was helpful for you guys potentially looking at Seattle. Based off of me looking during COVID times, I was able to find a lot of buildings that were for like studios and 1-bedrooms in luxury buildings. We were looking at like $1,500 to $1,600 a month, which is just crazy. And obviously it goes up from there, and I know that there are parts of Seattle that are probably really expensive, but for the time being. That is what I saw as a trend, and I was looking in December. So December 2020, there were plenty of options and beautiful buildings and cheaper than LA, which is what I was kind of looking for. I kind of just decided at this point in my life, like, I want to live alone again and I want to love where I live. So I think I just need some time to take a step back from a big city like LA. And I have no regrets, which is really the dream. Like, I've been here for over a month now, and I just feel so content with my decision, very, very happy with this change and that choice, and I'm really excited for all the things that I'm kind of planning out here. So that's my apartment hunting journey here in Seattle. I'm kind of wish I could be more direct about, I guess, my spot in general, but I hope that the other building I visited is helpful, at least, like some information about South Lake Union. I have an apartment tour coming out. I haven't filmed it yet, but that is on the radar, and I would just love to do more city-based content in general for you guys. So please stay tuned, and thank you so much for watching. If I can answer any questions about the apartment hunt here in Seattle, I would love to answer those for you guys. Again, my experience felt a little bit unique in the sense that I didn't get to see many buildings at all. I did plenty of research before my showings and obviously know Seattle, so if you have any questions, don't be shy. Otherwise, stay tuned for more city-based content in the future, and I will see you guys in the next one.